Hey everybody, I'm Adam, and this is Think Club. So this anti-theist YouTuber that goes by the name Noel Plum made a video about Jordan Peterson, and since I am contractually obligated to respond to all videos contesting Jordan Peterson's greatness, I feel compelled to respond. So this is Noel Plum's BS video, Debunked. So Noel Plum's video is over 18 minutes long, and I am just going to summarize the video here. If I am getting any of this incorrect, Noel is welcome to correct me. Now, Noel's argument seems to be that Jordan Peterson is selling a brand of intellectual Christianity people are no longer buying. Noel finds this reality fantastic and actually goes on to praise Jordan Peterson for helping Noel in his cause to make the world more irreligious. Now, the evidence he produces for this argument I find rather dubious. Noel uses quotes from the UK clergy and stats indicating falling rates of church engagement to make the argument that this intellectual Christianity is what's causing this decline in church affiliation. Now, the problem that I have with this argument is Noel draws no causal connection between the declining church affiliation that he cites and this growing brand of Christian intellectualism that he cites. And without some evidence that one is linked to the other, it's very hard to make a case that the cause of this decline in religiosity or church affiliation is actually being driven by the unappealing nature of the intellectual brand of Christianity that Jordan Peterson and others in the UK clergy that he cites are promoting. Now, I have a few clips here. One is from the social scientist Robert Putnam, which I think makes a much better case, a much better causally connected case for what is actually going on here. I don't contest the fact that there is a decline in church affiliation, probably in the UK as much as in the United States, and the clips I have actually support that claim. But the cause of that church affiliation, that decline in church affiliation, is something that Noel never mentions in his video. So I'm just going to play a short snippet of the clip here so you can see Robert Putnam is making the claim that political polarization, specifically around issues of social justice, not some intellectual brand of Christianity, is what encouraged the decline in religious attendance and religious affiliation. And then I will play the entire clip so you can see the context where he shows the statistical data as evidence for this claim.
This is a period when young people were becoming much more tolerant of homosexuality, very sharp generational increase beginning in 1990 in tolerance for homosexuality among young people. So the young people were zigging to the left on homosexuality issues. At the same time, the most visible religious people were zagging to the right. Right? They were having all these public campaigns against gay marriage and so on, and referenda and so on. And so the young people went in this direction, the religious people went in this direction, and the young people did not follow them, but they went right out of church.
And here's the entire context of the clip.
And I want to show you just a couple of more pictures just quickly, because I think you'll find them striking. This looks only at young people, because as I said, young people is where the action is. And this looks only at 20-somethings over the period from 1970 to 2010. The gold line there, the upper line there, shows what fraction of all young people in America are evangelicals. And you can see it rose quite quickly from about the mid-1970s to the middle 90s. That's the first, you're looking there at the first aftershock, right, as more and more young people move into evangelical churches. And here's this period here these are the fraction of all people who say they have no religion. Those are the young nuns, again, not Catholic sisters, but the NONES. So here's the period of Putnam's constant, right? No, not that many people, and it's going down a little bit. There's 1990. You can see visibly the second aftershock. You can look at it, you can see the second aftershock, right? Because all of a sudden, young people start saying they have no religion, and stop saying they're evangelical Protestants. In 1990, the peak of the evangelical movement, there were twice as many young evangelicals as young nuns. And now there are approaching twice as many young nuns as there are young evangelicals. And these lines, as far as we can tell, are continuing to move in those directions. And it's not accidental that is that is, if I go back to the previous graph, you'll see the timing is exactly the same. That's when the polarization started to take off, right? You see that 1990 is when the polarization, and if you then unpeel this further, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of statistics. Who are those people who stopped being evangelicals and started being young nuns? What would predict who was going to be a young nun? And it's entirely about their politics and especially, above all, how they feel about homosexuality. This is a period when young people were becoming much more tolerant of homosexuality, very sharp generational increase beginning in 1990 in tolerance for homosexuality among young people. So the young people were zigging to the left on homosexuality issues. At the same time, the most visible religious people were zagging to the right. Right? They were having all these public campaigns against gay marriage and so on, and referenda and so on. And so the young people went in this direction, and the religious people went in this direction, and the young people did not follow them, but they went right out of church. And so that's the best predictor. These young nuns, by the way, they're not atheists. Or I won't say they're not atheists. A few of them say they don't believe in God. Most of them say they believe in God. Most of them say they pray. Some of them actually go to church. Many of them say religion is important to them. So they're not opposed to religion in general, and they're certainly not atheists. A lot of the atheist groups in America take credit for them as if they were atheists, but they're not. They say they believe in God. What they are is very alienated from organized religion. Because for them, growing up when they did, what religion seemed to be about was Jerry Falwell, that was not them. Homophobia, that was not them. So they're out looking. Nobody's appealing to them.
So Putnam makes the case that a dramatic change in our attitudes towards homophobia are what drove the change in church affiliation and not some kind of intellectual Christianity that Noel Plum cites. Putnam goes on to point out,
actually, I think that that's not a stable equilibrium. I think that what will very likely happen in the very near future, meaning in the next 5 to 10 years, is those trends will change because there will be, not because kids will change, but because there will be new kinds of religion that come to be on offer. It'll be Christian. I don't mean some other, New Agey kind of thing. I just mean a lot of megachurches and so on will stop leading with the politics because it's the politics that drove the kids out of church. And I was going to use a market metaphor. There's a niche here. There's a pool of people here who are, so, from a religious point of view, souls to be saved. I mean, let me not use marketing. Let me use Jesus Christ's words. He said to his disciples he urged them to be fishers of men, F-I-S-H-E-R, anglers of men. That's what he said. Here's a pool, lots of fish in it. You can see there are a lot of fish in this pool. Nobody's fishing there. I'm certain some religious entrepreneur is going to head there.
Now, I would go as far as even making the case that the religious entrepreneurs that are heading there are the anti-theists. If you look at the YouTuber Cosmic Skeptic, his most popular video is on this topic. YouTubers like Rationality Rules regularly bring up the topic of homophobia.
All of us unfortunately know an otherwise wonderful person who, because of religion, dislikes homosexuals. Don't we?
Sam Harris regularly brings up the topic of homophobia.
The kind of God that the fundamentalists believe in, the God who's an invisible person who hates homosexuals.
So from where I sit, knowing this information, it appears to me that Sam Harris and the anti-theists are in direct competition with Jordan Peterson for these members, for these people, for this audience of people who are searching for meaning in their lives. As Douglas Murray puts it,
we can't do without religion in some sense, or we can't sort of reinvent our own values. We've shown many times that we can't reinvent our own values. Do you have any sort of sense of how we kind of resolve that? Is it a new religion? Is it a new kind of...
Historically, it's the invention of a new religion or war. It's a pretty good time if you wanted to start a religion. Now would be a great time.
Well, let me just pause for just 1 second, because this next point may be a little bit of a surprise. It was a shock to us. One thing that is implicit in what I've just finished saying is that people are adjusting their politics to fit their religion, or adjusting their religion to fit their politics. More and more people have consistent views in religious and political terms, right? There are more and more, you can predict whether someone's going to be religious or not religious by their politics, or vice versa. So we have fewer and fewer church-going progressives in America and fewer unchurched conservatives. So here's the question. When people are in that anomalous situation, they're in one of those two boxes, either they're religious and progressive or they're unreligious and conservative, what do they change? Because that shows they're changing. What do they change? Do they change their politics to fit their religion, or do they change their religion to fit their politics? Pardon?
Change the religion to fit the politics.
It's difficult to hear, but the woman says they change their religion to fit their politics.
Yeah, I didn't believe that, actually. I was certain that could not be. Our data showed that, but I just could not believe it, because I said to myself, remember, there's still at stake here. If you're a believer, what's at stake is your eternal fate. And that goes on for a long time. So even with a discount rate, it's going to be, a lot depends. And I couldn't believe that people would be making decisions with that import about their permanent, their fate, based on how they felt about, Bill Clinton or George W. Bush. It just didn't seem to me it added up. And I thought people would be going to church, they'd be hearing the sermons, they'd be becoming more conservative, or they'd be not at church, they wouldn't hear the sermons, therefore they would become more progressive. But no, you're right. Most people are changing their religion to fit their politics. So that's another way in which we become more polarized over this period.
So hopefully this has given you a little bit more to think about on this topic, and we can move this conversation forward a bit. As always, I'm curious your thoughts as well. You can leave them for me in the comments below. And I will leave you with a little bit more of Douglas Murray on the topic of our religiosity.
Your concerns are what happens if we lose religion or religious faith. Would you say you're closer to Jordan or to Sam on that point? It sounds like you're closer to Jordan.
I'm slightly equidistant. I don't have Sam's belief. Let me put it another way. I don't have Sam's faith in the idea that if we just brush away the remaining bracken from religion, left by religion, that we get to this reasonable, rational world.
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering. Because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering.